Hello, you're watching VNA News and Airlines.
State President Thang visits Haiphong City. Industrial Production Index expands by 6.6%. Thừa Thiên Huế Province welcomed 470,500 visitors.
The 110th birth anniversary of late Prime Minister Phạm Văn Đồng, a prominent leader of the Vietnamese Revolution in the 20th century, was celebrated at his memorial site in Dinh Commune, Central Quảng Ngãi Province on March the 1st.
The ceremony was attended by Party General Secretary Nguyễn Phú Trọng, members of the Politburo and Party Central Committee, and Buôn Thong Divise, a member of the Lao People's Revolutionary Party Central Committee and governor of the Lao province of Champasak. Phạm Văn Đồng, alias To, was born on March 1, 1906 in Đức Tân Commune of Mộ Đức District, was an excellent disciple of President Ho Chi Minh. He was former Politburo member and advisor of the Communist Party of Vietnam Central Committee. During his 75 years serving the revolutionary cause, the late Prime Minister made remarkable contributions to the country's revolution. Addressing the ceremony, Politburo member and Deputy Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc hailed the late Prime Minister as a talented politician, excellent theorist, experienced diplomat, and great cultural thinker of the country, who was respected by his comrades, compatriots, as well as international friends. He also took this occasion to ask Quảng Ngãi province to improve its growth quality and competitive edge, use proper resources for industrial development and building new-style rural areas, and pay due attention to sea-based development. The province should also ensure social order and security, promote democracy, and uphold the strength of the entire people's great unity bloc.
On March the 1st, State President Thang visited Haiphong City to inspect the attraction of investment and development of industrial and economic zones in the northeastern key economic region.
At the meeting with municipal officials, President Thang was briefed on the city's socio-economic performances. In 2015, Haiphong recorded a GDP growth rate of 10%, the highest level over the past 4 years. Meanwhile, the city's budget collection was estimated at 52.28 trillion dong, up 14% over the previous year. Haiphong is gearing up the construction of major infrastructure projects, including Cát Bi International Airport, Lake Huyện Port, and Bạch Đằng Bridge. In addition, the city is facilitating the deployment of projects invested by 5 groups. While highlighting Haiphong's strategic location, President Thang requested Haiphong to review its planning work, propose new policies, and adjust fields which no longer have competitive edge. The state leader also urged Haiphong to effectively use investment capital, focus resources on necessary projects, and map out policies to attract more investment. Earlier, President Thang visited the factory invested by LG Electronics Vietnam. Based in Trang Duy Industrial Park, the facility has registered capital of $1 billion. He also paid a field trip to Japanese-invested Kyocera Company in Vietnam's Singapore Industrial Park.
The Ministry of Industry and Trade hosted a forum in Hanoi on March the 1st to discuss the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, as well as its opportunities and challenges to the development of Vietnam's industrial sector. Our reporter will bring more details.
The forum discussed the possibilities of restructuring industrial businesses, as well as making policy recommendations to help Vietnam's industrial sector secure a firm foothold amidst global integration. According to experts, the TPP agreement will include both traditional and non-traditional regulations and commitments. Besides open-door trade commitments, it will also require institution and policy reforms in accordance with global standards. Moreover, the industrial sector needs a large amount of investment capital. high management skills, and professionalism, while a majority of local businesses are small and medium-sized, seemingly unaware of the pressure from the renewal and restructuring process. So Vietnam's industrial sector is facing a risk of losing to rivals right on the home ground, as it is still facing a lot of shortcomings. Experts and policymakers stress that the TPP will pose challenges, but it will also offer opportunities for domestic businesses to boost their connectivity and speed up the restructuring so as to develop the industrial sector.
Vietnam's laws and its commitments on intellectual property in the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement were the focus of discussion during a workshop in Hanoi on March the 1st. More in the following report.
Vietnam had just finished negotiations on the free trade agreement with the EU, which is expected to create big impacts on the country's institutions and economy in the coming time, including intellectual property. According to foreign experts, Vietnam's legal documents regarding intellectual property are in conformity with its commitments to the World Trade Organization. The EU boasts strength in connectivity and one of the world's biggest exporters of intellectual property products, so it requires higher commitments. The review showed that Vietnam's laws are compatible with most of its commitments on intellectual property in the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement. However, there remain 4 commitments Vietnam has not yet followed. Meanwhile, some of its regulations are not fully compatible with the commitments to the trade deal. Participants suggested the country adjust its related laws and regulations and step up the enforcement to meet the requirements.
The General Statistics Office has reported that the National Index of Industrial Production in the first 2 months of this year posted a year-on-year increase of 6.6%.
The index in February grew by nearly 8% against the previous year. Growth was reported in production of automobiles, 38.8%, and steel, 28.3%, while that of paint, leather footwear, motorbikes, sugar, and mobile phones reduced by between 0.1% and 3.5%. Top 3 localities where industrial production surged were Quảng Nam 65.6%, Thái Nguyên 29.9%, and Hải Phòng 14.7%. The inventory level of electronics, computers, and optical production as of February the 1st posted a modest growth of 1.1% from 1 year ago, while that of beverages, metal, and motor vehicles increased sharply by 46.1%, 34.8%, and 32.2% respectively. Total workforce in the industrial sector expanded by 6.2% year-on-year.
Some commercial banks have continuously increased interest rates to attract depositors, setting a record 2-year high of 8% per year. More details coming up next.
The Vietnam Export-Import Commercial Joint Stock Bank last week increased its deposit rate from 7.5% to 8% per year for some terms. The new rate was applied for deposits of at least 10 billion Vietnam dong, or $450,000, with 36-month term. The Orient Commercial Joint Stock Bank has also just listed the same rate for 36-month deposits. The bank even offered an additional 0.1 percentage point per year for depositors who make online savings. The Southeast Asia Commercial Joint Stock Bank is also offering the 8% rate for 13-month deposits. However, beneficiaries must be the bank's regular customers for 5 years with deposits of at least 200 billion Vietnam dong. Currently, other commercial banks list their highest rate between 7.4% and 7.5% per year for long-term deposits. Under the current regulation, the central bank sets the cap of 5.5% per year only for short-term deposits of under 6 months. The rates for medium and long-term deposits are float.
Though the e-commerce market has seen significant growth in Vietnam, the habit of using cash remains overwhelmingly popular among people, accounting for 65% of online transactions.
In fact, some e-commerce firms said the number of customers opting for cash on delivery accounts for 90%, with fewer buyers using credit cards. It is this habit of consumers that has hampered the growth of e-commerce, especially e-retailers, and not the lack of online payment facilities. With more than 120 million mobile subscriptions and more than 40 million internet users in Vietnam, electronic transactions have a lot of potential. Besides, the number of ATM cards has increased relentlessly as more and more companies force their employees to collect their wages using ATM cards as desired by the government. The reluctance to use card forces many e-commerce players to keep tracking payments made in cash or by check and bank transfers at the desk instead of developing applications for online payments. This is a unique trend that runs contrary to what is happening in other countries. Consequently, e-commerce firms accept higher operating costs because they have to pay delivery companies a considerable amount since they help them collect money from customers in addition to delivery. The habit also has an effect on sellers' turnover since people paying cash are always more reluctant to part with their money than those paying by cards. The product exchange or return rate is also higher in case of cash payments.
Passengers of domestic airlines now have the chance to travel at lower costs, as the carriers have decided to slash airfares due to falling fuel costs. More details in the following report.
The national flag carrier Vietnam Airlines is offering 9 to 80% discounts from regulated ceiling prices for both domestic and international routes. Meanwhile, low-cost airlines Vietjet Air and Jetstar Pacific are providing 9 to 100% discounts of their airfares. In 2015, Vietjet Air nearly quadrupled its promotional tickets offered at 0 Vietnam Dong and lowered 8% of its average airfare prices compared to 2014. A number of airlines have committed to setting up further promotional programs in 2016. The airlines sell tickets at different bands based on demand-supply relations, airplane seating, and time of ticket booking. Airlines are not allowed to sell tickets higher than regulated ceiling prices. As ceiling prices are built on fuel costs, the Ministry of Transport will work with the Ministry of Finance to calculate a suitable ceiling price to apply to each carrier.
During the first 2 months of 2016, the Central Province of Thừa Thiên Huế welcomed nearly 470,500 arrivals, including over 175,700 foreign visitors, which represented a year-on-year increase of 6.24%.
It helped the locality's tourism earn over 487 billion Vietnam Dong, at $21.8 million, up 5.39%. About 92,000 holidaymakers visited the province during the 10-day Lunar New Year festival from February 5th to 14th, up 16% from the previous festival. Foreigners accounted for 55.4% of the total, most of whom were from the Republic of Korea. Overseas holidaymakers during Tet brought up the number of international arrivals to the locality in February to 100,000, up 32% from the previous month. The number of foreign travelers to the province by ocean liners were also on the rise. The province's Chiang Mai port has graded 6 cruise ships carrying nearly 9,500 passengers and crews since the beginning of this year. This year, the province plans a wide range of activities to promote local tourism. Highlights include the Huế Festival 2016 from April 29th to May the 4th, the Huế International Food Festival from April 28th to May the 2nd, alongside golden weeks of tourism throughout the year.
And that has wrapped up our news bulletin. Thanks for joining us, and goodbye for now.